There are moments in our lives, moments when we believe we are completely awake, completely present, but in reality we have already begun to lose our way. This is Sarah's story. She was a 34-year-old woman living in a quiet little town called Havenwood, where cream-colored wooden houses hid under old oak trees and cobblestone streets led to a town square always filled with laughter. She had a life many would dream of, a stable job at the community library, a cozy house with a thriving rose garden, and a husband, Liam, a talented architect. Their life was a harmonious melody, calm and steady, without any sudden low or high notes. Everything began to change, not with an earth-shattering event, but with a soft sound, almost imperceptible. A sound from within her own home. Sarah often woke up in the middle of the night, not from a nightmare, but from an indescribable feeling, as if someone had just left the bedroom. She would lie there listening, but there was nothing. Only Liam's steady breathing beside her and the ticking of the clock in the silence. She told herself it was just insomnia. But then, the strange things began to pile up. Her favorite coffee mug, which was always on the kitchen counter, was found in the sink. Her car keys, which she was sure she had left on the hook by the door, were on her dressing table. Small, insignificant details, but enough to plant a seed of doubt in her heart. That doubt grew, turning into an invisible ghost that haunted her. Liam, her husband, was a perfect man. He was tall, with dark hair and a warm smile that could melt any heart. He was always loving, thoughtful, and dedicated. He was the man who had helped her get through the grief of losing her parents in a tragic car accident 10 years ago. Sarah had found a safe harbor in him, a confidant and a life partner. She believed she was the luckiest woman in the world. But recently, Liam seemed busier. He often worked late, with phone calls that lasted deep into the night. When Sarah asked, he always explained that it was a big project, a crucial one that would change his career. She believed him, but a part of her couldn't stop feeling uneasy. The turning point came one evening when Sarah was standing in front of the bathroom mirror. She was brushing her hair, her golden blonde hair falling over her shoulders, and looking at her reflection. Her face looked a bit tired. Her blue eyes had lost their usual sparkle. She looked at herself, and then something happened that made her heart almost stop. Her reflection in the mirror, those eyes, blinked. But she didn't. A chill ran down her spine. She blinked, once, then twice, forcefully, but the reflection in the mirror just looked back at her with a blank stare. The moment lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough to shake Sarah's entire world. She wondered if she was imagining things, if she was going insane. She was so tired of the sleepless nights and the strange occurrences. She muttered a calming mantra to herself. It's just a hallucination. Just a hallucination. She turned away, trying to push the haunting image out of her mind. But the image of her blinking reflection kept replaying in her thoughts. The next day, she decided to find an answer. Sarah went to the library, but not to work, to search. She looked for books on psychology, hallucinations, and strange cases. She didn't want to ask anyone, afraid they would think she was crazy. She spent hours flipping through pages, but no book could explain what she had experienced. Every text talked about a common type of hallucination, but nothing about a person's reflection blinking when they didn't. As she was getting discouraged and about to leave, an old, forgotten book in a dark corner caught her attention. Its title was Mirrors and Parallel Souls. The content inside was a collection of folk tales, rumors, and even records of supernatural phenomena. She knew she was heading down a dangerous path, but her curiosity and fear compelled her. In the book, there was a chapter about the theory of the doppelganger, an ancient legend about an evil entity with the ability to possess a person's soul by replacing them with a perfect replica, existing in the world of reflections. The sign of this possession was the reflection's eyes not being in sync with the subject. Sarah's heart pounded. This explanation sounded insane, but it was the only thing that matched what she had gone through. Sarah left the library with the book, a cold feeling creeping into every cell. She went home, her eyes staring at every mirror, every reflective surface in the house. She didn't dare look directly at herself. She began to observe Liam meticulously. She saw that he was still the gentle, thoughtful man she loved. He still told jokes, still held her tightly whenever she felt scared. But the small details began to reappear. He started calling her by a different name, a name he had never used before, little one, instead of my love, or Sarah. When she asked, he just laughed and said he wanted to try a new name. She also noticed he no longer ate his favorite food, the apple pie she made every weekend. When she asked, he said his taste had changed. These small changes, combined with the image in the mirror, sowed a terrible fear in Sarah's heart. She no longer felt safe in her own home. The cozy house had now become a cage, every corner holding a secret, every mirror a door to another world. She didn't know what she was facing, but she knew one thing for sure. Her reflection in the mirror had blinked when she hadn't, and that meant something had begun to take over her life, slowly and silently, from the inside. The fear reached its peak one evening when she secretly opened Liam's computer. She knew it was wrong, but she needed answers. She found an encrypted folder, and after several password attempts, she succeeded. Inside the folder, there were no architectural drawings, but a series of photos of her, secretly taken from different angles. Photos of her sleeping, of her reading, of her watering flowers in the garden. And the last photo, a photo of her standing in front of a mirror, with her face in the mirror having a twisted smile, a smile she had never seen on herself. In that photo, her reflection was blinking, and her face was not. A strangled scream escaped her throat. She quickly closed the computer, her whole body trembling. She couldn't believe her eyes. Liam was not the man she thought he was. He was a sneak, a stalker, a dangerous person. And he knew her secret. He knew about that blinking reflection. He had been watching her, documenting her weakest moments. And now, as she looked back, those small changes were not coincidences. They were signs. Sarah looked out the window, night had fallen, and the house had become eerily quiet. She felt like she was trapped, imprisoned. She had trusted a man, had given him her whole heart, but it was all a lie. Now, she didn't know who the enemy was, who the friend was. She didn't know who she could trust. She only knew one thing. Her life was no longer hers, and she had to find the truth before it was too late. Sarah's panic wasn't just about discovering the photos. It had turned into an ultimate fear, a sense of isolation and desperation as she realized that Liam, the man she had trusted implicitly, was watching her. The bedroom, once the safest sanctuary, had now become the most terrifying place. She lay in bed, trying to breathe normally, but her heart was pounding like a drum. Liam was home, and he was sleeping soundly next to her. Or at least she believed so. Somehow, she felt a difference, a cold energy emanating from his body. She secretly glanced over, under the faint moonlight filtering through the window. His face was calm, peaceful. But she couldn't erase the image of the twisted smile in the mirror, the smile he had captured. The next morning, the tension in the house was palpable. Sarah tried to act normal, but her hands trembled as she poured coffee, and her voice cracked when she asked Liam about his plans for the day. He didn't seem to notice, still chatting cheerfully about an important meeting he had. As he was leaving, a sudden change in his behavior occurred. Before opening the door, he turned back, looking straight into Sarah's eyes. It wasn't the loving gaze she was used to. It was a cold, sharp look, as if he was seeing through her, judging her. He smiled strangely, a smile she had never seen before. "My love, do something interesting today, will you?" he said, his voice still warm but filled with a hidden threat. When the door closed, Sarah collapsed onto the kitchen floor. She knew she was no longer safe. Liam knew she had discovered something. He was playing a dangerous game with her. She had to act immediately, but what could she do? Call the police? What would she say? "My husband is stalking me and my reflection blinked?" They would think she was crazy. She needed proof. Concrete evidence, not vague feelings or small details. She had to find the truth about Liam and what was happening in this house. Determination drove her to action. She decided to go back to the encrypted folder on Liam's computer. This time, she wasn't just looking for photos. She went through every file, every document, and she found it. An audio file named Evening Recording, and she clicked on it. Her own voice came from the speaker, mumbling in her sleep, disjointed and unclear sentences. But after her voice, there was another voice, low and cold, but very familiar. Liam's voice. He wasn't talking to her. He was talking to someone else, someone she couldn't identify. She's getting weaker. Her sense of reality is wavering. We're about to succeed, the voice whispered, full of satisfaction. Hearing that recording, Sarah almost fainted. Liam wasn't just watching her, he was manipulating her. He was trying to drive her insane, to make her doubt herself. What was his goal? She continued searching, and finally, she found another folder, not Liam's, but her own. It was named Sarah's Diary. She clicked on it, and a series of texts appeared, each marked with a specific date. She began to read. The content inside was a diary she had never written. Stories about a woman named Eleanor, a woman struggling with insomnia and strange hallucinations. The diary talked about how Eleanor believed her reflection in the mirror was living a life of its own. It talked about how Eleanor was afraid of her husband, whom she thought had been replaced by a perfect replica. Reading those words, Sarah's entire body went cold. She realized that these diary entries were describing her own life, but under a different name. And most terrifyingly, these diary entries had started to be written when she began to notice the strange things in her house. Who had written these diary entries? Who had created a fictional character to describe her life? She suddenly remembered the old book from the library, Mirrors and Parallel Souls. She had read about the doppelganger theory, about an evil entity that could possess a person's soul by replacing them with a replica. Was this what was happening? She wasn't the only one who had gone through this. Sarah started looking for information about Eleanor, but there was nothing. No records of a woman named Eleanor living in Havenwood. She suddenly remembered a small but notable detail in the diary. Eleanor had written about finding an old mirror, a mirror with a carved oak frame of a dragon, in the basement of the house. The mirror had been hidden, as if it didn't want to be found. Sarah ran down to the basement, her heart filled with both hope and fear. The basement was cold, dark, and dusty. She searched every corner, overturned every box, and finally, she found it. A large mirror with an intricately carved oak frame, but not of a dragon, but of various birds, as if they were flying around the mirror. Covering it was a thick, old cloth. She removed the cloth and looked in. Her reflection in the mirror didn't blink. She looked closely, trying to find any unusual signs. But there was nothing, just an old, forgotten mirror. She was disappointed. But then, a small detail caught her attention. Behind the mirror, on the wooden frame, there was a phrase carved in a strange language, a language she had never seen before. She took a picture of it and used an online translation tool to find out. It wasn't a language, but a code, an ancient code. After many hours of decryption, a short message appeared. Not mirror, is soul. Retain. Not mirror, is soul. Retain. What did it mean? Sarah thought, trying to piece the puzzle together. The old book, the diary entries, and now this mysterious message. She wasn't Eleanor. Eleanor was a fictional character created to describe her own life, slowly, to convince her that she was going insane. What was Liam trying to do? Suddenly, the basement door opened, and Liam stood there, with a cold smile on his face. You found it, didn't you? He said. I knew you would. Sarah's heart almost stopped. She was cornered. She desperately grabbed an old shovel next to her. She didn't know what she could do, but she knew she wouldn't give up. He wasn't Liam. He was something else, something evil, and he had succeeded in taking over her life. My dear Sarah, he said, moving closer. We have a lot to talk about. His eyes were no longer the warm brown color she knew. They had become pitch black, deep like two bottomless pits. She knew it was time to face the truth, the horror that had haunted her for so long. But she couldn't have imagined that the truth was even more devastating than anything she had ever thought. Liam's pitch-black eyes held no trace of warmth or love. They were a bottomless abyss, swallowing all light and hope. Sarah backed away, the old shovel in her hand feeling impossibly heavy. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it would shatter. She was no longer facing the husband she had once loved, but a completely alien entity, an evil replica that had taken over his body and his life. "What have you done to Liam?" she choked out, her voice trembling. He laughed, a laugh devoid of warmth, only twisted and terrifying. "Liam? Liam has been gone for a long time, my dear Sarah. He's vanished just like all the others. He was just a vessel, an empty shell." He took slow, deliberate steps toward her, each one echoing like a knock from hell. "You've done so well. You've resisted longer than Eleanor, much longer than many. But in the end, you also found the truth. And you know, the truth will set you free." Sarah didn't understand. "Who is Eleanor? Why are you doing this?" He stopped, looking at her with a feigned pity. "Eleanor was the woman before you. She also lived in this house, also loved a man named Liam, also became obsessed with mirror reflections. She also found this mirror, also read those diary entries. And in the end, she became a part of the reflection world, just like you." He pointed at the old mirror. "We aren't doppelgangers. We are a living entity, an entity that lives in the world of reflections. We need a vessel, a strong soul to exist. I found Liam. Liam found you. And you found Eleanor." A wave of dread washed over Sarah. She realized this wasn't a joke, not a coincidence. This was a series of events orchestrated long ago. "So those diary entries," she began, but he cut her off. "That's how we create doubt, panic. We write those diary entries so you'll believe you're going insane. We manipulate you, make you lose faith in yourself, make your soul weak," he said, his black eyes glistening with a wicked light. "And when your soul is at its weakest, we will take you, just like we did with Liam, just like we did with all the others who lived in this house." Sarah trembled, but she didn't back away anymore. "You won't succeed," she screamed. "I won't give in." He laughed, a cold, piercing sound. "Give in? What do you think you can do? You're just a tiny soul, trapped between two worlds. You've already seen it, haven't you? Your reflection, it blinked. That was the first sign. The sign that you've already started to belong to us. You looked into this mirror, and you read the message. You've been trapped, Sarah." Suddenly, Liam, or rather the entity possessing his body, moved closer. Sarah raised the shovel, but he just smiled. He wasn't afraid. He held out his hand, and a wave of cold energy radiated from his palm, sending the shovel flying away. Sarah fell to the floor, feeling as if an invisible force was crushing her chest. He leaned down, looking straight into her eyes. "Can you feel it? The feeling of emptiness, of dissolution? That's your soul leaving your body. Soon enough, you'll be one of us." She felt a powerful urge, a voice in her head, not her own, but someone else's. "Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror." The voice was full of pain and desperation. He continued, "That's Eleanor's soul. She's trying to warn you. She wants you to be trapped like her. But don't worry, you won't be alone." In a moment of desperation, Sarah obeyed. She looked into the old mirror. In the mirror, there was no image of her, no image of Liam. There was only a blurry image, an image of a young woman, with dark hair and sad eyes. It was Eleanor. Eleanor was crying, and her lips were trying to form a word, something Sarah couldn't hear. And then she saw it. Behind Eleanor, there was another image, the image of a man with familiar eyes and a warm smile. It was Liam. Liam was trapped in the world of reflections. The truth was fully revealed. Liam hadn't vanished. He was trapped. He, the possessor, had lied. He didn't just want to take her body, but also to trap her soul, just as he had done with Eleanor and Liam. In that moment, Sarah made a decision. She couldn't let herself be trapped, couldn't let Liam be imprisoned forever. She had to fight. She looked straight into the pitch-black eyes of the entity standing before her. "You lied," she said, her voice filled with hatred. "You trapped Liam. You will pay for this." He laughed, a laugh full of contempt. "You have no power. You've lost." Sarah closed her eyes. She remembered the words in the old book, the words about parallel souls. She remembered the mysterious message carved on the mirror. Not mirror, is soul. Retain. She understood its meaning. The mirror wasn't the door. Her own soul was the door, and she had to lock it. She took a deep breath, and when she opened her eyes, a faint blue light radiated from her body. The light enveloped her, protecting her from his cold energy. He backed away, his black eyes wide with surprise. Impossible, he mumbled. The power of the soul. Sarah stood up. She was no longer afraid. You underestimated me. You underestimated my love for Liam. And now you will pay for that mistake. The confrontation between her and him had reached its climax. She wasn't just fighting for herself, but also for Liam, for Eleanor, and for all the souls that had been trapped in the world of reflections. She knew this would be an uneven fight, but she also knew she wouldn't be alone, because in the depths of her soul, there was a glimmer of hope, a glimmer ignited by love and resilience. The faint blue light from Sarah's body spread throughout the basement, pushing back the darkness and cold. It wasn't a magical power, but the explosion of will, of love, and of resilience that she had found in her most desperate moment. The entity possessing Liam's body recoiled, its face twisted with anger and surprise. It had never encountered a soul so strong, a soul that could resist its manipulation. Impossible. You're not human, it roared. Who are you? Sarah stood firm, the shovel forgotten. Now she didn't need a physical weapon. I am Sarah, she said, her voice filled with authority. And I will free Liam. She looked directly at the old mirror, where Liam's image was trapped, his face filled with both pain and hope. She knew he was still there, still listening to her. The possessing entity lunged at her, but the blue light created an invisible barrier, pushing him back. He punched the barrier, creating sounds like breaking glass. You think you can defeat me? I have existed for centuries. I have trapped countless souls. You are just a small woman, nothing more. You're wrong, Sarah said. I'm not fighting alone. My love for Liam is a power you cannot comprehend. And I'm not just fighting for Liam. She looked at the mirror again, where Eleanor's image was smiling at her, a smile full of gratitude and trust. She saw other souls, faint images, standing behind Eleanor and Liam. All of them looked at her, as if placing all their hope in her. Those souls, he mumbled, his face filled with fear. They have merged. They have created a collective power. Sarah took a deep breath. She remembered the last words the book had said, the words about how a strong soul could break the curse. To be free, the soul must give up. To live, one must accept death. She understood its meaning. To free Liam and the other souls, she had to sacrifice herself. She had to give up this world, so her soul could enter the world of reflections and break the curse from within. Liam, she screamed, her voice echoing throughout the basement. I love you. I'm coming back to you. A painful groan escaped the possessing entity. He felt a weakening spreading throughout his body. He knew what she was doing. She was using the power of love to break the barrier between the two worlds, to become a part of the world of reflections. Sarah closed her eyes. The blue light from her body erupted, creating a powerful tremor. The old mirror shook, cracked, and shattered into 1,000 pieces. At the same time, her body, physical and tangible, began to dissolve, turning into shimmering dust and flying into the broken mirror. The possessing entity let out a cry of pain. He felt his soul being torn to shreds. He no longer had the power to maintain his form. Liam's body fell to the floor, and he dissolved into a cloud of black smoke, sucked into the broken mirror shards. Silence descended upon the basement. The broken mirror pieces sparkled on the floor, like tiny diamonds. Sarah's body had vanished, and only a white dress remained on the floor. Her story didn't end there. In the world of reflections, a world of faint light and inverted images, Sarah found Liam. He stood there, with his familiar eyes and the warm smile she had loved. They hugged, tears of joy streaming down their faces. With them were Eleanor and countless other souls who had been freed. The world of reflections was no longer a prison, but a safe haven for the souls that had been deceived. Sarah had accepted the sacrifice to free them all, and she had found a new life, a different life, but a life where she was happier than ever. The end of Sarah's story is not a happy ending in the traditional sense, but it is an ending full of hope. She fought, sacrificed, and won. Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, love and will can be the most powerful forces. It shows that sometimes, to gain freedom, we must accept the most difficult choices, and that the truth, no matter how painful, is the path to liberation. Sarah's story has ended, but your story is still going on. Your life, your choices, they all create a unique story. And perhaps you've also had moments where you felt lost, haunted by something you couldn't explain. Don't ignore those feelings, because sometimes the scariest stories aren't about ghosts or monsters, but about the secrets hidden within our ordinary lives. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to support the channel. And be sure to subscribe to not miss out on the next mysterious and dramatic stories. Click the notification bell to be notified whenever we upload a new video. Thank you for watching.